Welcome into A to Z Sports, prime time on a Sunday night. Hope everybody had a fantastic weekend and that you're ready to get into a discussion about the newest additions to the Tennessee Titans on offense. A couple of new things, new pieces to discuss since last we met on Thursday evening, and something that Titans fans should be excited about while also understanding that, the work is not yet done. So we'll talk about what they have added since the last time we got together. We'll talk about what is next. And then, of course, because it's a Sunday night, we have This Is a Free Site, the best thing that I saw on the internet this weekend. A lot of good stuff to get into over the course of the primetime show. Before we get started, though, I need you guys to share this show around, whether you're on Twitch, YouTube, Facebook Live, or Twitter. We need your friends to come hang out with us. So if you're on Twitter, please retweet the show in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. If you are on YouTube or Twitch, please subscribe to the channel, like the video if you would be so kind, and that will get more people to see the video, and we appreciate you guys doing that for us. And if you're on Facebook Live, share now to public. That's in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. And now that more of you are here, we can go ahead and start talking about these new Tennessee Titans additions officially. Welcome into A to Z Sports Prime Time on a Sunday night from the Draftkings Sportsbook Studios. I'm your host, Buck Rising, and I'm proud as always to be presented to you by the fine folks at Two Rivers Ford. Two Rivers Ford since 1983. That's the place that you can go for quality American-made Ford vehicles and award-winning customer service. Two Rivers Ford in Mount Juliet or online at tworiversford.com. DraftKings Sportsbook, promo code A2Z Sports gets you in on all the action in the DraftKings Sportsbook app. They are the best in the country, America's top-rated sportsbook app, and I'll tell you about the offer that they have for you later on in the show. Of course, the official real estate agent of the Tennessee Titans, of the Nashville Predators, and of A to Z Sports Prime Time is the Ashton Real Estate Group of Remax Advantage at GaryAshton.com. That's your dream address without the stress, using the Gary Ashton team. And once you have your dream address that you need to make sure that you're in your comfort zone, you can do that with Brimac Mechanical, Brymak, Brimac.com. Satisfaction guaranteed on all of your HVAC needs. So we've got a lot of exciting things to talk about. Titans signing Austin Hooper to a 1-year, just north of $6 million deal to address the tight end position, to go along with Jeff Swaim and a future draft pick. Then you have the news over the weekend. What was that? Yesterday evening. It feels like a lot of time has passed since then, but they would be trading or have traded, pending a physical, for the services of Robert Woods, the former Los Angeles Rams wide receiver, for a 2023 sixth-round pick, coming off an ACL tear, so he had to be a Tennessee Titan. But this is a step in the right direction, a productive utilization of the cap space that the Titans had cleared by restructuring Zach Cunningham. Remember that the cap space that they cleared by releasing Julio Jones does not come into effect until post-June 1st. So, with that being said, the offense has been upgraded. You've got a reasonable solution at wide receiver 2. You've got in theory, a tight end 1. You've got a couple of different pieces on the offensive line, not a finished product yet, but you have your quarterback, you have your running back. This offense is heading in the right direction, even as we know they can't be done just yet. So let's start with your Two Rivers Ford take, because I want to talk about which one you believe is the more impactful acquisition, whether it be Robert Woods or Austin Hooper. Which Titans addition was the bigger deal? Let me know on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch. We'll talk about it together right after I tell you about the fine folks who make the Two Rivers Ford take possible. That, of course, is Two Rivers Ford. Two Rivers Ford is the best in the business. It's one of the largest selections of vehicles in the state of Tennessee, and their sales staff works not on commission, works without commission. So they make their paycheck, whether they sell you a car or not, which means for you that you feel no pressure throughout the course of the car buying experience. Two Rivers Ford is the place that you go for their quality service, for their award-winning customer service. Two Rivers Ford in Mount Juliet or online at tworiversford.com, where you can find out more about the Built For You program today. It's a very good thing, the Built For You program. You will enjoy it a lot, just as I did. So let's look at this and talk about the two acquisitions, one via free agency and one via trade, that the Tennessee Titans have gotten their hands on en route to upgrading the offense. Or at least, the goal is to upgrade the offense at this point, even if you think that they haven't done crazy moves to try and get themselves back in this game. This is substantial progress made as far as the offseason is concerned. So to kind of process this, so you'll remember Robert Woods tore his ACL. This was after week 9 when the Titans had played the Rams in Los Angeles on Sunday Night Football. But still, the timeline is for him to be prepared to be ready for the start of the season. Now, what that means is that you can expect a reasonable slow start for a guy who has never had an ACL tear before in his career, just as Taylor Lewan started slow to the season but finished strong, just as Bud Dupree started slow to the season and finished strong. Robert Woods will take some time to get up to where he needs to be a 100% or as close to 100% fully functioning NFL football player, but he fits exactly what they want to do. And then there's Austin Hooper, who is 27 years old. Robert Woods, for reference, will be 30 by the time the next NFL season starts. He is currently 29 and I think like 324 days, if Pro Football Reference is accurate. So you've got Austin Hooper, who's just been let go from the Cleveland Browns in the middle of a 4-year, $42 million deal. He had 2 seasons in Cleveland after being a big free agent signing there from the Atlanta Falcons a couple of years ago, and it's not panned out. He has been a big disappointment for the Browns. He has, I think, some quarterback limitations that have helped make him look worse than he was making himself look, but there are still there's still reasons why he was available for such a discount at that age, and given that he has been, in the past, a very productive football player. So who do you believe to be the more impactful upgrade at this point? Dion Bonner says Hooper from the tight end spot, since he can both block and catch. Defenses can't predict what he'll do. I don't know about that last part. I think that, that's really all they have to predict what he's going to do. Is he going to block? Is he going to catch? Or is he going to go out and run a route on this play? There's not a lot of mystery as to the tight end position, but he is versatile. He can do both of those things to a satisfactory degree. For Jose Flores on Facebook Live, he says Bobby Trees, a.k.a. Robert Woods. I also saw Bob Forrest, which made me laugh yesterday. Bobby Trees and his versatility will help with different sweep runs and quick slant plays. He has been a very, very productive player for the Los Angeles Rams, both in their passing game and in their running game. He likes to block. Mike Vrabel is on record saying he has a lot of respect for this player from years past when they have, just watching him on film, because of the kind of things that the Titans like their wide receivers to do in this offense that is predicated around the run. So when you kind of break these two things down, I think that when you kind of break these two things down, you did have a top flight receiver already on the roster, but what you didn't have is a tight end. And a tight end, far and away better than what you had last season. I think that Jeff Swaim on the roster does give you some versatility. I do think that that's, that he is worth keeping around, even if you didn't like the price point, because a lot of you were butthurt that they gave Jeff Swaim, or they didn't give Deontay Foreman the money that they gave to Jeff Swaim, which of course made no sense, because how are you going to pay a running back $2 million who doesn't play behind a guy who averages 29 touches per game when he's healthy? You look at the tight end position and you say, yeah, it makes a lot of sense that Austin Hooper would be the more important immediate upgrade, just because of how poor they were at the position last year.
I feel like, every year my goal is to improve, and I feel like I'm never satisfied. I feel like there's things that I always want to improve on. There's things in the offseason I made a point to address myself and to get better. And spending more time with Baker, I think, definitely has helped me with my confidence more than anything. And being in the same offense, knowing what to expect and what's expected.
So that's Austin Hooper while he was still with the Browns last season, talking about what he had been working on to get better. And listen, it for one reason or another, we know the issues with Baker Mayfield. We know that Baker Mayfield's not going to be the Cleveland Browns quarterback next year. But when you kind of look at what Austin Hooper's career has been, he had the worst year last year since his rookie season, where I think Austin Hooper was still, I'm trying to remember, was Tony Gonzalez wasn't still on the Atlanta Falcons in 2016. I want to double check that. I think Tony G's been out of the game for quite some time. I would have to double check his Pro Football Reference page, because I feel like it has been a long enough time since Tony Gonzalez. Yeah, he was. Let's see, he retired in 2013. So yeah, that would have been. So Austin Hooper was drafted in part to kind of get them. They had Levine Toilolo, who again is a unrestricted free agent. He didn't really pan out. Then they drafted Austin Hooper, and Matt Ryan and Austin Hooper had a really, really good season together before Hooper went on to get paid by the Browns. But in the 2 years since, he has had very disappointing years. Played 13 games in 2020 and had 435 yards, 46 catches, and 4 touchdowns. All right, so that would be great if he was like the second option at tight end, which he may well have been because of David Njoku. Then you have last season where he plays in 16 of the 17 possible games. He has only 38 catches, 345 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Now, Browns fans have mixed reviews on this guy, and I've talked to a couple of people who are Browns fans and who watch the Browns closely, and basically it's a combination of, well, Baker Mayfield was terrible. He continued to try and play through injuries to his own detriment, to the detriment of his teammates. Last year wasn't on Hooper, but 2020 was not a good season for him. And then there is the idea that Hooper himself is not, he has not covered himself in glory since signing a big money contract a couple of years ago. He is somebody who has trouble staying on his feet. Like, he slips and falls coming in and out of his routes fairly frequently enough for it to be a talking point, is what I'll say. I'm not saying that it happens on every snap. I'm not saying that it happens on every other snap, but in critical situations, he has trouble keeping his feet. And then there has been consistency and probably confidence issues that come along with struggles in just simply catching the football, being a reliable enough target for a quarterback who does rely a great deal on play action and the tight end position to help give them a bit of a safety valve, which is exactly something that Ryan Tannehill lacked here. But the Hooper situation, it sounds, I don't know why it sounds so funny when I say it like that. Anyway, the Hooper addition is the more beneficial of the two. And I'll expand on that right after I tell you. Actually, let me read some more comments, and then I'll tell you about our friends at DraftKings Sportsbook. Who is the more impactful upgrade to you? TK Bullis says Hooper scares me because there isn't a Brown fan out there that's sad he's gone, right? Shades of Julio Jones, except the difference is one was 33 and coming off basically playing half a season. The other one is 27 and has just had a couple of down years, but otherwise has been a good player in his career. I'm going to say Hooper, says Dre Wilson, just because he's healthy right now. That's so. We don't know what the expectation is for Robert Woods to be ready for the start of the season, but again, that doesn't mean that he'll be completely physically ready for the rigors of a week in, week out football grind, just as we brought up the idea of Taylor Lewan and Bud Dupree earlier. Hooper till we see what Woods has, says James Strickland. And then there's, this is good timing, Kelly Craft, who says, I have to stop watching, dude. It's more commercials and you begging people to share your video than content, which is sad because you have some good content. I just can't. Well, I can't deal with all the commercials. Well, one, Kelly, the commercials, and they're not even commercials, they're endorsements. There's a difference because I don't physically go away and you don't hear a bunch or see a bunch of commercial B-roll paying. But also because this is a free product for you, the sponsors are a necessary part of the product. So if you enjoy the content, then you should be thankful that there are multiple sponsors on this fine streaming show, just as my radio show is made free for you because of the sponsors. And I would tell you that if you enjoy the content, well, then you should be grateful and support the sponsors, so I don't have to keep telling you to support the sponsors every couple of minutes. And if you want me to stop saying share the show, well, then that's the dumbest comment that I've ever read in 3 years of doing this streaming show, because how the hell else would anybody know to share the show if I didn't tell them to share the show, Kelly? Good God. It is a fundamental lack of understanding about how the business model works, because it is a business, and I got a mortgage and a car payment to pay, Kelly. And that's how I pay my mortgage and my car payment, by telling you to share this show and telling you about our fantastic sponsors like DraftKings Sportsbook. Promo code A to Z Sports gets you in on all the action in the DraftKings Sportsbook app. With one of America's top-rated sportsbooks, DraftKings Sportsbook has a college basketball offer that will get you courtside for all the action. If you're a new customer, you can bet just $5 on any team to win and get $200 in free bets if they do. Yep, it's just that simple. Even for you, Kelly, who doesn't seem to understand the simplest of business concepts. If they win, you win, which is about as simple as I can make it. DraftKings Sportsbook customers can also bet on college hoops with same-game parlays. Combine multiple bets from the same game for a bigger payout. The more legs you add, the more money you can win. DraftKings is safe, secure, and reliable, Kelly. Best of all, you can deposit and withdraw your cash whenever it is that you desire. So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Use promo code A to Z Sports. Bet $5 on any college hoops team to win and get $200 in free bets if they do. If they win, you win with promo code A to Z Sports. This week at DraftKings Sportsbook, must be 21 or older, Tennessee only, minimum $5 deposit. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call or text the Tennessee Red Line, 1-800-889-9789. So, now share the show. How's that, Kelly? Which is the more important addition for this offense? I do think that it is the addition of Austin Hooper, because they just fundamentally lacked a, for lack of a better term, do-it-all tight end. Austin Hooper can function both in both facets, and in a way where Mike Vrabel has expressed this belief before with us media. The primary function of a tight end in this particular offense is to block first. You do the things without the ball in your hands that get you the ball put in your hands, which has always been the offensive philosophy for the skill position players here in Tennessee. Weapons won't be any good without a line, and that's not looking good at the moment, Kevin Trumbull says. Well, here's what I'll say, Kevin, because you're correct. Even though, I mean, Joe Burrow made it to a Super Bowl without an offensive line, you are largely correct in your assessment that an offensive line performing or not performing in the way that the Titans offensive line did last year is going to work to your detriment more often than not. But I would say to you, we are just through. I mean, legal tampering opened, 4 days ago? Or free agency opened 4 days ago? Kevin, the way that this works, and listen, I understand why there's angst around free agency time and why reactions can be so strong on social media. And even us, I think the last show we did was, hey, are the Titans getting left behind because they haven't done anything significant yet? And then over the course of the next 48 hours, they did the two things that made you feel much, much better about their position, even if it's not the same kind of flash and star power and firepower that you would associate with all the other NFL teams. It just feels like an eternity because there's such a flurry of movement. A week ago, on last Monday, when legal tampering opens up, and when you see your team not doing anything, you start to get impatient. You start to get antsy. You see teams signing players you want to big deals, and you get frustrated with your organization. And then all John Robinson does at this point is re-sign a couple of critical players, brings in a couple of pieces early on because they're still trying to see what the market will materialize. And based on my conversations with people in the organization, seeing what the market would play out at the wide receiver position was as critical to this process as anything, because Robert Woods is on your books for a couple of years at this point. But he is a better football player than Christian Kirk, for example, who got a shit ton of money from the Jacksonville Jaguars, who wrecked the market for everybody else. He's a better football player than Christian Kirk. And you know what else? He's making substantially less money than Christian Kirk, because the Titans didn't delve into the market and pay a new guy whose contract is immediately going to be inflated because of Devontae Adams, because of Christian Kirk, because of who else got paid this offseason? Mike Williams from the Los Angeles Chargers. They went out and got an existing contract with a player that fits what they do, so the money wouldn't get crazy. That's the critical part that you have to remember. There's more than one strategy to this offseason. And again, I'm not saying that they are perfect. They screwed up the Julio Jones thing. We talked a lot about how badly they screwed it. Well, we talked for about a day and a half about how badly they botched the Julio Jones thing, right? And so everybody understands that there are swings, there are misses, but the objective for this offseason is to continue to keep the defense great and to find ways to incrementally improve around the quarterback so he doesn't have another meltdown like the one that cost you the playoff game last year. Practicality is the name of the game, while also finding a formula to keep what works. And what they have done largely works. Yes, the postseason success has not been adequate for a fan base that now has expectations of winning a Super Bowl. Expectations, by the way, that your own organization gave you, rightfully so. You should have the expectation that John Robinson and Mike Vrabel should be doing everything in their power to win a Super Bowl. And if they fail to do so during this current window with players like they do have on the roster right now, it's as talented as this franchise has looked in a considerable amount of time. If they come up short on that, then yes, it is important to dissect the reasons why. But practicality has been the name of the game this offseason. I think largely you have been rewarded for those of you who have had patience about this thing, because I feel like a lot of people were out here deleting "Fire John Robinson" tweets a couple of days before he picked up Austin Hooper on a bargain basement deal and traded for Robert Woods in a way that addresses your wide receiver 2 situation. Carmen Carver says they should have all our normal guys running sprints, and those were torn ACLs and wheelchairs following. So Carmen has no sympathy for the lack of conditioning for the players recovering from ACL. She wants them doing wheelchair sprints. Vicious, Carmen. I appreciate that. MB says Browns fans ? Before the Watson trade, who are they? Yeah, it is odd. There's a large contingent of Browns fans that live in Nashville. And I know not all of you guys live in Nashville because this is an internet show. So there are Titans fans from all over the place that follow A to Z Sports, and we're grateful for that. But there is an obnoxious amount of people and Cleveland is a miserable place. So I could completely understand why they would want to move down here to sunny, scenic Nashville, Tennessee, where it was 75 degrees and sunny today. It was beautiful. Everybody was out in the streets. Everybody was, well, I wasn't drinking, but everybody else was drinking. I had a lovely walk around the neighborhood to get my coffee while everybody was spilling out drunk into all of the bars because it's beautiful and warm in Nashville, and that means that day drinking must, of course, occur. So yes, Cleveland, you could do that, but you would be doing that in cold and in rain and in wind, and just in general Midwest depression, because it is a fairly miserable place. I've been there several times. In fact, not the last time I was there, but one of the last times I was there, the Titans kicked the Cleveland Browns' ass when they were expected to win the Super Bowl that year. That was right after the Odell Beckham Jr. trade. Anyway, so with this being said, yeah, and we haven't talked about the Deshaun Watson thing. At some point, we'll get into the quarterback situation, because I think, who's still out there to move? Baker Mayfield and Deshaun Watson. So we will get into the quarterback movement later on in the week as we have more developments. And by the way, the Tennessee Titans are not done in free agency, which is what we need to move on to and discuss coming up next, right after I tell you. Well, actually, let me ask you the question, and then I will tell you about yet another one of our tremendous, fantastic sponsors who make this product free for you. What position group should the Titans prioritize next, now that we are in the second wave of free agency? Again, it's very, very early in the process, even though I understand the need to kind of freak out a little bit. What should be the next step in the process? What position group should the Titans prioritize next is the question that we're asking you. And as you give me your responses, I will tell you about the Ashton Real Estate Group of RE/MAX Advantage, who also makes this product free for you, who also provides to you the intel edge that only the Gary Ashton team can provide. the official real estate agent of the Titans, of the Predators, and of A to Z Sports Prime Time. We are coming to you live from the studio that was built for me by Austin and Zach in my dream address without the stress that I purchased through the Gary Ashton team. I bought my home almost 3 years ago. It'll be 3 years coming up in July, which is crazy to think about. And all that my property has done is skyrocket through the roof, just as many of yours has, because of the crazy Nashville real estate market, but specifically because I got the intel edge from the Ashton team that told me this is exactly what was going to happen pre-pandemic house spike because of what is happening in our city and because the Ashton team had the knowledge to put me in the best position to succeed. You can get that information too. You can get that intel edge at GaryAshton.com with the official real estate agent of all of your favorite sports teams and your favorite late night streaming sports talk show. All right. What should the next move be for the Tennessee Titans to prioritize? I think there's a couple of different directions that they can go here. I'm just now getting to the comments about the Draftkings transition. Yes, you know what how else would you have liked me? How else would you have liked me to done it? Forgive me for being so behind on the comment section at this point. But when you kind of look at what the Titans offense is lacking, what were the clear and obvious needs coming into the season, right? Coming into this next season. Well, we know that the wide receiver position needed to be, if not upgraded, more available. They have jettisoned the unavailable Julio Jones. They have acquired Robert Woods, who may not be available right at the start of everything in OTAs and training camp and blah, 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 blah. But the expectation is for him to be ready for September when the season in 2022 officially gets back underway. So you knew the wide receiver was an issue. Draft and free agency. I still expect them to address it through the draft, as should you. Tight end was an issue. They have addressed tight end. Will continue to address tight end. Then there's the offensive line, which is these are three substantial positions, right? But three positions that are critical to the success of the football team. And frankly, that third one caused a lot of problems last year, especially at the start of the year, even as the Titans did manage to have considerable regular season success. So the next direction you go is offensive line. And we know that Taylor Lewan's not going anywhere at this point. We know that Roger Saffold has moved on, that Ben Jones has been re-signed, that Nate Davis is in a contract year, and that they will have a new starting right tackle because David Quessenberry, I love David. I really do. He's a tremendous story. He's an outstanding person. And frankly, he's for all the things that he's overcome, he's been a damn good football player to continue to find ways to play at the highest level after having recovered from the cancer situation that he and his family went through. That is not easy to do, ladies and gentlemen. But with all due respect, they needed to upgrade at the position over David Quessenberry. Now, somewhere in the mix is second-round pick Dylan Radins, but that still means that you will have one new addition who is going to start football games for you in 2022. They have added a player who has played both guard and tackle last year, only got, I think, 10 games of starting experience in Jamarco Jones, who is a swing tackle / guard who came in from Seattle as an unrestricted free agent. But draft picks will, and I honestly, if they don't do something in the next couple of weeks, and they'll add another offensive lineman in the next couple of weeks. Free agency doesn't just end, right? Free agency continues through the season at this point. If free agency is open from March 16th through next March, whatever the new league year date is next year. I don't think it's the 16th, but you understand my point. Like, free agency never really ends now that it's begun. So expectation should be for them to add both players at both offensive line or players at offensive line, both in the draft and in the next phases of free agency, which will continue on. And there's still a fair amount of interesting players there, if not like top tier starters, right? Lyle Collins was not going to be an option for the Tennessee Titans at the price point. Cincinnati gave him a fat new deal after he was released from Dallas this offseason. That kind of high, well, he wasn't a high round draft pick because I think he had a pending I don't remember exactly what he was being investigated for, but I do remember there was some legal stuff swirling around his situation at LSU that saw him drop out of the first round to, I think he went in like the 5th or the 6th round, but Jerry Jones made it up to him. He might have gone undrafted if memory serves. Anyway, I think that largely you will see position players at that position, both tackle and interior offensive line, because you do still have to plan for life after Ben Jones at some point, regardless of whether Radens plays guard or not. You need to have versatile pieces there. And Aaron Brewer does give you something, even though I don't think he's a starting caliber NFL player. But you kind of process that and say, all right, the next obvious position is the offensive line, both tackle and interior, because like I said, they need a sustainable solution at right tackle. Radens, I think, is more naturally a left guard player, but that doesn't mean that they're going to keep him from competing at right tackle as well. I just think he ultimately ends up at left guard. And then you have the situation where both Lawan and Ben Jones, and really Nate Davis, because I don't think he's worth the second contract here, but we'll see. He could do well after having a bit of a down season, and did kind of improve as the season went on after a really, really rocky start, but there was all kind of medical situations in there. Offensive line is the next obvious place to move forward so the Tennessee Titans can keep their quarterback upright, put him under less duress, make life a lot easier, because Ryan Tannehill was the second most sacks that he's ever had in his career. Now, the most sacks he's ever had was in Miami, and it was like 10 more. I think he sacked 47 times this year. I think he was sacked like 58 one year in Miami, which, you can understand what horrors that would wreak havoc on a quarterback in that position. Offensive line, though, seems to be Juicy J Blaze, Jacob Brown on YouTube. We got Robbie Ells at this point saying offensive line. Jesse Norwood wants a slot receiver. Jarvis Landry's still out there, and I have no idea what the relationship between Jarvis and Ryan Tannehill is right now. I'd be curious to see if they have grown from a place where there's no longer friction in their relationship, or even if they still don't have like a crazy good relationship, because apparently they didn't in Miami. Can they still perform together? Because that's what professionals do. And they did that in Miami, even though it sounds like they didn't have much of it didn't sound like they had any relationship at all. But guard and tackle is the objective at this point. I think largely with Woods means you're not getting Landry at this point. Unless Jarvis Landry is out there after June 1, but I would not anticipate that being the case. We will see. We will see what happens. And by the way, that doesn't rule out a trade, but I would think that the next upgrade at the wide receiver position would be the next substantial upgrade at the wide receiver position would be via the draft, as opposed to a name brand free agent who you know. Did we actually sign or restructure Taylor Lewan? I haven't heard a word. Yeah, nothing happened with Taylor. Taylor's just on his contract. There's nothing. The move with Taylor is to do nothing. You know how hard it is to get a starting left tackle for $14 million, and like a good starting left tackle for $14 million. Because I know a lot of you guys hate Lewan, right? And I get accused of going to bat for him, because I tell you all the time he's not nearly as bad as you think he is. Even though what was it? 5 sacks total for Chandler Jones in week 1, but 3 against Taylor. That image will forever be seared in your head. And by the way, Taylor has moments like that where he looks like shit. He's not a crazy all-pro caliber tackle, but he's still a Pro Bowl level left tackle. And to get that for $14 million is frankly a steal in this current economy, where just go look up Laramie Tunsil's deal, which was signed, I think, 2 years after Taylor signed an extension. That will make you be grateful for the fact that you have a starting left tackle, a Pro Bowl left tackle, for $14 million and change right now. The move for Taylor is to not do anything with Taylor. And next year, if they can find a trade for him, if he plays well and they want to move on, then they can move on after that. But for this year, Taylor Lewan's not going anywhere. Teron Armstead says Coy Woods. He plays left tackle. You don't need another left tackle. Let's see. Let's move on, and let's do this as a free site and wrap things up. In the comments on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, the question that I would like to ask you guys is this. Well, and this is, so producer Reed typed the question as, and this is my fault because I didn't double check it. He says, how hard is it to not cuss on live television? Now, I don't know. Maybe some of you have live television experience. Hell, I have precious live television experience. I've done TV before, and this is obviously live, but this isn't television. It's a much different format. So when the question is, how hard is it to not cuss on live TV? I don't necessarily expect you guys to know that, but we have a video that I think you're going to understand what direction we are heading in right after I tell you about Brimac Mechanical. BRYMAK, Brimac.com. Satisfaction guaranteed on all of your HVAC needs. Brimac will put you in your comfort zone, whether it is heating, whether it is cooling, whether it is commercial, whether it is residential, whether it is ductwork that you require. Brimac will get the job done. BRYMAK, Brimac.com. That's where you go at Brimac Mechanical, 3 locations in Tennessee and in Kentucky to make sure that you get in your comfort zone. So, how hard is it to not cuss on live television? Now, I cuss on the primetime show. I try not to do it gratuitously because, that's, I think, over cussing, for lack of a better term, tends to be a sign of lesser intelligence, which is not something that I'm interested in conveying. 2, some people find it legitimately offensive, and I want to be respectful to the portion of our audience who finds it offensive. Now, I don't think that way, but still, you try to play by other people's rules just to make sure that we can all have as close to as family-friendly an environment as humanly possible on this. And on the radio show, I do, there are some words that I can get away with that are safe. Well, safe for lack of a better term, but I can say them on FCC air. I know what those words are, and I don't use those words. Podcast, podcast is fair game. Cosell pod, I don't cuss a bunch. 615 sessions, I tend to actively encourage people cussing. I don't know why this is the case, but you get my point. Like I have different etiquette for different platforms that I have. Now, live TV is different, right? Like if you say I'm the reporter, all right, I've got the microphone. Auburn and Miami are on right now, and it looks like Auburn's about to lose to Miami as a double-digit seed. Number 2 Auburn in the the Midwest region, 64-56 right now. So say Miami wins, right? And I'm going up to the Miami star player after the game as the sideline reporter, and I'm saying, "Hey, man, talk about the emotions." Well, I wouldn't say talk about because talk about is terrible etiquette, but walk me through the emotions of what it was to beat the number 2 seed in your region. And the player goes, "Well, it was bleeping incredible, bleep, bleep, bleep," except he didn't bleep because it's live television. Then you've got a problem, right? Because then it's not me that's cussing, then it's you that's cussing, but I'm the one with the microphone, so it's my job to navigate the situation. It can be difficult, and it can produce some pretty incredible moments, but sometimes it's harder, much harder than it actually looks.
All right, Drew, I heard you in the hallway motivate this team. What did you say in that locker room?
I said, I don't give a flying F what happens at the end of the game. Whether we lose or win, we're not going out as no soft guys. Leave it all on the floor because it could be your last 20. And, hey, man, if you go all out and we still lose, play with no regrets. And we took that to heart, and, we came out with the win, fortunately. But give credit to Memphis, man. They really brought it, and the way they turned their season around is pretty remarkable.
So that's Drew Timme, the Baylor star, the Gonzaga star player. They beat Memphis today to advance in the NCAA tournament. And by the way, we're going to talk about Rick Barnes and the Tennessee Vols on the radio show tomorrow, because that is a seriously tough scene. But to kind of get into that, it is difficult to not cuss in real time. I don't know that I could do it on the primetime show. Well, I could do it on the primetime show because I don't do it on the radio show, but you get it. Sometimes it's hard not to cuss in those moments, and sometimes it's necessary. Sometimes there's nothing wrong with it. But if you're somebody like me who doesn't have self-control, such is life. Steven Snyder says, I have Tourette's, so I wouldn't be on TV or radio unless I'm on XM radio. Steven, that's interesting because I don't know how many of you are on TikTok, but I follow an account called Uncle Tix, which is a guy, I can't remember if he's in New Zealand or in Australia, but he has Tourette's, and he takes you through the day in a life of somebody who has Tourette's, right? And he has all these sudden motions and obscenities that he blurts out. While, what he has to get a haircut from his girlfriend because of the way that he reacts sometimes in the middle of a haircut. So it's a really, really interesting look into, because I don't know anybody in my life other than, you, Stephen, who I know through the internet, because I know Stephen's one of our regulars around here, but I'd never had exposure to somebody who's had Tourette's before, like in real life, other than people making fun of Tourette's is the wrong word, but other than people like imitating what it is to have Tourette's. I've never actually understood what that process looks like for them and what that day-to-day is for them. So yeah, it would be difficult if you were on TV or radio and had Tourette's. I don't know if there are any of my media colleagues out there that do this kind of a job with Tourette's. I'd be fascinated to know. But I really do enjoy that account on TikTok. It gives you really good perspective into how people manage to get by. Now, Sean Gill points out half those people on TikTok fake that stuff for content. Not all do, but just the ones that suck as people do, which is completely so. I would have no idea whether they were faking it or not, right? Because as I said, I have no context for what it is to be around people who deal every day with Tourette's. So I hope that he's not faking it, because it's made me, one, it is some of the situations that he gets into are laugh out loud funny, but two, I do think it's important, because I want to be exposed to things I haven't been exposed to, and that's something that I've never been exposed to before. Helps you be a little more well-rounded and open-minded as a human, as opposed to just being like that man or woman is different than me, I don't want to be around them because it makes me uncomfortable. No, you gotta be uncomfortable sometimes. Anyway, we've made it to the life lesson section of the program, which I'm not sure how we ended up there, but I thought we had a productive show tonight. Thank you guys very much for hanging out with me on the Primetime Show, as is the case each and every Sunday through Thursday night. We appreciate your participation, your comments, and your sharing, and the way that, like, who was it earlier? Kelly, the way that you suffer. I'm so sorry that you suffer through the endorsements for the people that make this show free, like DraftKings Sportsbook, like Two Rivers Ford, like the Ashton Real Estate Group of Remax Advantage, and like Brimac Mechanical, BRYMAK, Brimac.com. Thank you so much for suffering through those the way that you guys do so nobly. I really, really do appreciate you most of all, Kelly. Bravo for your courage, sir, or madam. I don't know if Kelly is a man or a woman because there is no picture associated with the YouTube channel. Anyway, love you guys. Radio show tomorrow, going to be a lot of fun. Full show. We haven't done a full show since last Wednesday because of college basketball. 3 hours, 10 to 1, 104.5 The Zone tomorrow. And if I don't talk to you there, I'll catch you tomorrow night